People see me coming down to the gym every day and they notice it. The big benefit is I don't have that slump in the afternoon. So I can easily say that the hour I spend at Lockeroom probably gives me at least double that in the afternoon. I love the enthusiasm of working with people that are really passionate about what is the goal, what do I have to do to get there, what's the sacrifice I'm prepared to make in order to get to that next thing that I want. Working with people with an idea, helping them get the company set up around that idea. I had some spectacular failures. The easiest motivator is to get a data point. Go and get some motivator to get you off your ass. The decision I made to leave banking was also largely driven by I wanted to have more time on my time with kids growing up.
Brett, can you please introduce yourself, company, any details you think is relevant about your personal history?
Sure. So Brett Boynton, I'm a founder at Vista, which is a data analytics company. We've built an artificial intelligence engine to read market data, so share prices, foreign exchange price feeds, and we're looking for risk presenting in the market, and then we use that insight to help pension funds and asset managers kind of manage their risk and their exposure to that market. So
you've done that for how long, and then what did you do before that?
Sure. So my background is in investment banking. I kind of fell into that. I was working in London as a 20-something-year-old doing my kind of tour, and I was working in IT because those were the guys getting paid the most. Not that I knew that much about IT, but on the internal job board at the Swiss bank I was working at, this job spec came up for somebody to go and join the banking team in the London office, and I couldn't believe how much the pay package was, so I stuck my hand up for it, and I went across and met the head of the business, and we had a good chat about rugby, and he offered me the job. So I kind of learned banking on the job, sitting next to the head of this Swiss banking corporate finance team in the UK, and it was like an old school apprenticeship. I just sat next to him for a few years and watched how he did everything. I was his gopher. I was doing all of the kind of prep work for meetings, working with other specialists in the bank, getting research done, getting analytics done, learning how all of that was done. And then I said, look, this has gone very well, but for me to be a really meaningful part of the team, I think I need to go off and do some studies at business school. And it would be great if the bank sponsored me.
Because it's expensive.
Because it's an outrageously expensive exercise. I really had this passion to go and study in the US. I grew up in Cape Town, and a great kind of childhood. It was sort of carefree and riding bikes in the street and all that sort of thing. Went through undergrad there, but I had this kind of passion to go and study in the US.
Undergrad in Cape Town?
Undergrad at the University of Cape Town in economics, and it turned out that a lot of people study economics, so it's pretty difficult to turn that into a career. Anyway, I ended up convincing the bank to send me off to New York, let me work from the office there, and went to business school in the US, and that's where I got the startup bug. So with a classmate at business school, we started up. This is pre-Facebook, MySpace, if anybody remembers that.
Yes.
And we set up this kind of networking business. We tried to develop that. Unfortunately, then the big names came through, and we're never going to outspend these guys.
Right.
We dropped that, and it was around the same time that my partner at the time was an Australian girl, and she had an opportunity to come back to Sydney. So I followed her back here.
You met in New York?
We met in London, actually.
Okay.
In London, yeah. And so I arrived in Sydney, and I remember getting off the plane, and just that smell of the sea air reminded me of Cape Town. Wow, this is just like home. Yes. And then I came into the city, and I discovered half of Cape Town was already here, so it was an easy move, right? there's a big South African contingent, and some at the gym as well. Obviously, been working out with some of the guys there. So, so moving to Sydney was a very easy transition for me. But building a career here took some time. I kind of arrived from New York thinking, oh, this is going to be easy, but I didn't have any local connectivity. So I worked for a while, went back into another Swiss bank. I was with UBS and I moved across to Credit Suisse just to spend some time building a network here. But that taste of startup that I'd had in the US wouldn't go away. And so when the opportunity came, I actually left with one of the clients of the bank, had approached me and said, look, we work well together. I've got this other project. Would you be interested in coming in? You take a lead on that and I'll support you with my network. And so that was the start. And so for the last kind of 10, 12 years, I've just been focused on working with people with an idea, helping them get the company set up around that idea, staffing that, and then raising capital to go and kind of commercialize the idea. And had some spectacular failures, but on the whole, they've gone pretty well. And we listed one earlier in the year. Chrysos is C79 on the ASX. That's the ticker. That was a fantastic piece of technology spun out of CSIRO, and we've worked that up into now an international company operating on 3 continents.
That's awesome.
So it's been fun. It's a couple of times it's just been a few people, a laptop, and that's the start. And then you just jump in the deep end and go for it. And I love the challenge of doing that. I love the enthusiasm of working with people that are really passionate about doing it. And I think I've got better as I've done it. So the spectacular failures were kind of early in the career when I didn't really know what was going on. Or maybe I didn't choose such good things to start with. But now we're working on some really amazing projects and really excited to be involved in.
So working on those projects through Alpha Vista or separate?
No, I'm arranged. So I invest in and sit on the board of a couple of different companies, but the one that I focus my attention on, my day-to-day, is on Alpha Vista. It's in a rapid growth stage. We've got 20 people working in Sydney now, mostly development people, quants, mathematical people, and we've got an investment operations team. We've just started trading our own fund. We landed a mandate, our first FX hedging mandate last week, working with an import-export company. And we have a number of partnerships that we're going to bring to market in the new year. So it's a pretty full-on press at the moment. And as you can imagine, with a lot of highly paid mathematicians and development people, we chew through capital very quickly. So my job is to carry on raising capital. We've raised 21 million to date over 3 rounds.
Nice.
And we're going out to raise another 25 in the new year. So January is going to be a fast start into the new year.
So a little off script, but curiously, how much did the New York work environment, which is like globally, I think probably recognized outside of maybe like China as like the hardest working corporate culture, how does it benefit like the Australian work culture, like having done those sorts of hours, that sort of pressure, those sorts of late nights, does it benefit? Because the Australian corporate culture, from what I understand, is a bit more laid back. So is that true, not true?
It is. It's not slower. It just works in a different way. So
the Australian culture is not slower.
It's not. No, it's not. It's not that it's slower in Sydney and Melbourne. I mean, it may be in regional towns, but that's going to be the same in regional towns anyway. But the Sydney environment is really relationship driven. Okay. So it took me. I've been here about 15 years. It took me 10 years to get to the point where I was walking down the street and I knew people that I had a professional relationship with. Okay. And so if you haven't grown up in Sydney, you've got to recreate that, and it takes some time. In New York, if you have relationships, that's fine. But the American approach is much more of a meritocracy. So I want to hear your idea, and if it's a good idea, I don't care who you are. Right. If I can benefit from that idea, I want to work with you.
Interesting.
And so that enables you to get your the first part of your career going much more quickly. Polar opposite to the UK, which is only relationships.
Yeah.
And
that's what the whole financial industry is based on, right? Generational wealth.
That's absolutely
private
right.
offices. Yeah.
And and still today. So in the American banks in the UK, it's a little bit different. But if you're working in a more traditional UK banking environment, it's still very much relationship driven. And it's that trust factor. Right? I know that I can trust you to do the best thing for my business, my family office, whatever it is, because we've had a relationship for a long time. And then multiple points of connectivity. My brother knows your brother, my sister went to school with your sister, all those things.
Same school, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Build that trust factor.
Yeah.
And so Australia probably sits halfway in between culturally. In terms of the intensity of working in New York, that experience helps with anything. It's just discipline, right? So it helps with getting your mind focused on what is the goal, what do I have to do to get there, what's the sacrifice I'm prepared to make in order to get to that next thing that I want. So when I was in the US, I was on an executive program at business school. So I was working part-time, or I was working full-time and studying part-time, which meant a lot of really early mornings and a lot of late nights. And what I found was when kind of term time was finished, it was important to blow off some steam. So get out, go on holiday, even if it was just for a long weekend, go skiing, do something fun. And then with the cohort of friends I'd made in New York, we had a lot of fun going out to restaurants, going out to shows. So life's just different pre-kids, and when you're in the middle of it, you look back nostalgically and go, man, I could have done more, right?
Always, right?
Yeah.
Always. Okay, so it's interesting because maybe from what you just explained, it almost sounds like it would be easier then to go from Australia to New York because you don't have to have the existing relationship. So in terms of time, you could actually get started faster. They're more open and accepting.
Sure.
That's interesting. Okay, so give us an idea, Brett, like from when you wake up now and when you go to bed, what's a typical day look like? We don't have to go all the details, but obviously kids, where do you fit food in, training, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. It is largely around kids during the week because my wife and I both work. So in general, the decision I made to leave banking was also largely driven by having a look around at the colleagues in that environment and their relationship with their families. And I decided I wanted to have more time on my time with kids growing up. And so I made that decision when my son was born. That kind of coincided with me stepping out of investment banking. And that's been a really key decision for me. So it's been more challenging financially, and that's forced me to take more risk, which is fine. I kind of enjoy taking larger risk in business. I'm happy to do that. Whereas a lot of the colleagues that I had weren't. They were highly qualified and just focused on maximizing the income generating potential they had working as a banker. I'll get to my desk and clear some of my email. I'll scan it, look for anything that's important, and try and get that done first. Then we'll have a team meeting, or if there's no team meeting, I try and get into the gym early. Then I might have meetings in the morning, so typically have at least 2 meetings, trying to get out and meet people, generate business, generate interest in the business. Comes around to lunchtime. If I haven't been to the gym in the morning, then lunchtime is my slot. And then I come out of the gym and I'm really hungry, so I go and find something to eat. I'm pretty disciplined in what I eat, so pretty low on the carbs. I'm off gluten completely, pretty much off dairy.
So because you made those changes before we first came on board as a client, right?
I had, but really it's been reinforced with Lockeroom and that initial work with Andy on nutrition. Just thinking about, it's one thing to think about not having gluten. It's something else to think about, okay, how much protein do I have to have? The big benefit is I don't have that slump in the afternoon. So my productivity in the afternoon this year has been so much better than the last 5 years. That's probably the biggest change in my Lockeroom experience. So I can easily say that the hour I spend at Lockeroom probably gives me at least double that in the afternoon just in payback.
Good return.
In the afternoons, it's really getting through a lot of kind of desk work, and so again, that's important. I'll sit for extended periods of time, over an hour, potentially over 2 hours at a time. Sometimes I just get into a work mode, and I won't be getting up and moving around, and that used to create a lot of problems for me physically. I'd have problems with my glutes, lower back. That would turn into digestive problems. That's now much better. So my core strength is probably the best I've had it since I was 16, but I don't have pain. I'm pain free.
Yeah.
And I'm able to just kind of get on and do things. In the evenings, check in on the kids, make sure they've got everything done they need to get done, spend some time with them, get them to bed, and then I'll have dinner with my wife, and we'll kind of decompress and assess the day. Yeah. She's also in a sort of similar environment. She sits on board of a couple of startups. So in a weird way, our enjoyment is talking about what we're doing in our businesses. That's what our passion is. Yeah. And we enjoy that.
Obviously, we've covered a lot there, but it's obvious that there are so many things outside of just work that you have to obviously be healthy for. And I guess a lot of people imagine that the changes that you're talking about, not just in the gym, but also like with your nutrition, it feels very hard when you haven't started. It feels like, I got to change this and I got to change that. And I've been doing this for the last 10 years. Where I'm going with it is like, how have you managed to mentally like overcome those changes that you need to make, and how has that kind of looked over, I guess, the last 10 years in terms of making changes? Because very easy for people as they get older to get set in their ways and just let things overwhelm them and too hard to change. Do you have any strategies or mental framework you use to go, okay, I'm going to make a change, I'm going to be disciplined about this, because you are somewhat unique in your ability to do that, I feel?
So the easiest motivator is to get a data point. Go and get your bloods done, go and get your cholesterol tested, go and get some motivator to get you off your ass. And for me, that was going and getting a huge raft of testing done to figure out what was happening with my body and what I could do to optimize the performance. And so that's when I realized I had to make dietary changes, because if I didn't make dietary changes, that was going to impact my long-term health.
Sorry, I think you made those just before we met.
Yeah.
I remember you told me about them. Yeah.
So I've been through a couple of cycles of getting tested. Okay. So probably the first time would have been about 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay.
And that's where I picked up that I needed to watch my gluten intake.
Yeah.
So I have an insensitivity to it. It runs in the family. In hindsight, my father had it. You probably didn't know because he never tested. Yeah. But what I've noticed with my son is if I keep him pretty much on the diet I'm on, his energy level's up here, his ability to perform at school is up here. If he's off, eating cake at a party, he'll come back and his energy level drops straight away. Okay. So I know the same thing happens with me. Mm-hmm. So get the data to start with, and then that's your benchmark that you want to improve on. And then get retested. I was a bit skeptical about getting the Whoop band in the beginning because I already had the Apple Watch, and I'm kind of looking at steps today. I use that frequently. I'm looking at what the quality of my sleep is, not so much the quantity. Some days I get more than others. It's just where I live or not. But the quality of sleep is has been a big revelation to me. So I should just replace my pillow. I was doing research on the pillow and I found this Aussie-made pillow called Sleep Ease. Okay. And it's like $270. No ways I'm spending that on a pillow. And I thought, you know what? If that can give me a benefit in my sleep, let me give it a go. So I got it, and it's fantastic. I've had it a couple of weeks now.
It's not a plug. No. We don't have a code that you can
No, but I do recommend it. So it's all things like that I'm looking at all the time. What can I try out? That's just an easy win. And I spend time kind of researching. Mm-hmm. I love getting onto the internet and looking at listening to podcasts like David Sinclair. Yep. And so he got me onto, well, he didn't get me onto it. I chose to follow his program on NMN and resveratrol. Yep. Maybe there's a marginal benefit, but what he got me thinking about with that podcast was, what is the long-term impact on brain function of what you're doing now?
Yes.
So things like a high sugar intake, which causes spikes that are impacting your brain function.
Yes.
And you're repeatedly doing that. It's like being a boxer, right? You're getting repeatedly hit.
Yeah.
It's causing a long-term change in the way your brain function works, and that a lot of the recent research on kind of the gut-brain connectivity, all those sort of things, I find fascinating. So I keep going back to those and looking at things and how can I make changes and how can I make improvements, and then come back and test.
Yeah.
So in the gym, it's pretty easy. You can look at what's the weight I was pushing in July, what's the weight I'm pushing now, and for some people that's important. They want to be pushing the weight up. I didn't want to drop weight when I joined the gym. I just wanted to increase my fitness and change my body composition. I'm not looking to push much larger weights. What I'm looking for is to be able to consistently and injury-free, run a program that's keeping me at a reasonable plateau of all-round fitness and mental alertness.
Yeah.
And so those are the when you ask about how do you make the changes, make a couple of small changes, but take the measurements so that when you make the change, you can get the feedback. Is that working for me? And it's an investment. You need to spend some hard dollars on it.
Yeah.
It can be quite pricey to get all these kind of full range of testing done, and revisit it, and try different things all the time. I'm not into sort of, I wouldn't call it biohacking, but
optimizing your body, right?
Yeah.
No, I think the data point's good. I think for a lot of people, that data point's the scale way. Obviously, this is a very simple alarm bells that go off when someone sees a big swing. But we obviously love the Dexa Scan as well. Like seeing the body composition's a big one.
That is probably the main change for me over the last 9 months. So on the scale, I may have dropped 2 kilograms from when I joined the gym.
Yeah.
But my body fat content's gone from almost 30% to about 20.
Oh, you were up at 30.
I was up at like 27, 28.
Oh, wow, okay.
And it's come all the way. So that's what COVID did, right? I was probably, I wouldn't have been great before COVID, but I would have been okay. And then, coming out of COVID, I hadn't trained for sort of 6 months before I came to Lockeroom. My previous gym had closed down. And so that was a huge shift. And I can feel that in my daily activity. I have much more energy and I have much more alertness, and I can feel that my body is in better condition than it was. And that's a big change. I mean, maybe it's only sort of 7, 8, 9 points on the scale, but it's a 30% shift in relative terms. So
okay, so you can agree or disagree with this statement, and then explain why or why not you agree or disagree. Okay, so most people want to retire not because they hate their work or they're over it, but because their health deteriorates and they no longer have the required energy to keep up with the daily demands. Do you agree or disagree with that?
That's a tricky one. I don't know about most, but certainly I do see that people get to the point where they don't have the energy to run a full executive role. And it's different for different people. Some people are kind of still pushing on into their 70s, and just love what they do. It's interesting because in a corporate environment, there's an expectation you get to a period, a point in time, and maybe it's 55, 60, 65, and then that's it. You're kind of expected to retire. In family businesses, that doesn't happen at all. And the most basic family business is the family farm, right? The farmer doesn't stop working at the age of 55. They got to carry on. So, and probably in those environments, I don't know what the numbers would be, but I would imagine people would think about their health in a different way. That I'm not working to an end date and then I'm on a cruise ship. I'm going to carry on. And maybe the other thing is, so this is interesting because my brother's just gone through retirement. He's a couple of years older than me, and whilst he started the business up, they had a mandated 3-year handover period to the next CEO, and then they kind of went into retirement. And retirement is retirement from the executive role, but he's still actively involved in other companies, sitting on boards, doing mentoring, whatever he's doing. So I think retirement's come to mean different things.
Yeah.
Retirement as a kind of senior executive in a corporate environment, I get that. And I think you do get burnout.
Yeah.
And you probably, there'd be some kind of governance reasons why people would be expected to retire as well. So that's one thing. But I think retirement, my ideal retirement is kind of more of what I'm doing now. But I don't have to do it for the money. I can do kind of just sort of, So I agree and disagree.
It's a good explanation, good answer. Okay, so last question. What kind of stuff does your company do, if any, for the culture of health and fitness?
Yeah, so culture is a big issue in startups. You've got to get that culture right. We do a couple of basic things, like we have a fruit basket comes out, and we've got kind of a bit of on-site catering for tea and coffee and that sort of thing. And we don't have any sodas or that sort of stuff in the fridge. So there's a consciousness around that. We will purposefully take walking meetings every now and then. So and it's on each of the sort of leadership to have a look around, and if they think somebody needs a walk, like they've been sitting to it, you've got to go knock on the door and say, come on, let's go for a walk, let's have a meeting. And so we do that. And I'm doing that once or twice a week. And what I've noticed is it's had an impact on how the rest of the team looks at what's going on. So people are more health conscious. We'll have a discussion about what you're having for lunch and expect it to be pretty healthy. And the founder has got a sweet tooth, so he's the letdown to the team. He has a mocha every morning. Everybody else is drinking tea and coffee. But no, that's an allowable. So as part of the culture, we are thinking about it's not just a fitness thing; it's a health and well-being, and that kind of "Are you okay?" is something we are constantly doing, and to the extent of knock on the door, come on, let's go, you need a walk. And so we do try and keep it. And, it's important. People see me coming down to the gym every day, every other day, or almost every day. And they notice it. And one of the, I've got this very, very high performing young woman working for us, and she asked for some mentoring. She said, look, I want to step up to the main table. I want to be there, be part of the decision making. What are the things we need to talk about, and what do I need to know? And she's got excellent training. She's just finished business school. She's on a Women in Leadership board, and she's really investing in her career. And I said to her, the other thing is, you have a look around. The smart people here are making a significant investment in their health. So you've got to find a time in the day to get out and do something. And she's got a young family, so it's hard for her. She gets up early. She gets up at 5 o'clock now. And she came to me the other day and said, you know what, I've taken your advice, and I'm getting up and I'm doing this 3 days a week, and I feel so much better. So it's not that we kind of push being in the gym. What we do is make a concerted effort as part of our cultural interaction that a healthy mindset is part of the everyday job.
And set the example as well. Comes from the top. Well, thanks for doing this, Brett. Fantastic. Thanks for answering the questions. And thanks for obviously being a great client as well. Appreciate it.
Well, it's been a really good run. I'm looking forward to next year. Even better.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Brett. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Lachlan.
Welcome back. Okay. Hair and makeup.
You're never going to get anyone to do anything unless they want to.
And one of the biggest fears I have about being in business, you can take one stupid moment to ruin it all.
Something in me that never wanted to go back to being the fat kid.
I didn't want that. That fear was enough for me to commit to coming to Lockeroom.
Body fat content's gone from almost 30% to about 20%.
I started to enjoy the training.
There's always a trainer who can sort of take you from whatever level you're at.
I'm seeing changes. Resentment has turned to enjoying it.
In order to work really well, you've got to take care of yourself.
Big benefit is I don't have that slump in the afternoon.
And if you do prioritise your health, you will actually see the results in your work.
I'm a big believer, if you can't lead yourself, how are you going to lead other people? How are you going to lead the team if you can't even lead yourself?